So why this bike, you might be asking. In part one, I didn't get over that as much as I'd like to, so we're going to do that now. The sweet spot is what I like to call the little homegrown. The homegrown being the crown jewel, top of the line, high-end mountain bike that Schwinn had available at the time. They had a downhill version, they had a all-mountain version, they had a hardtail version. They even back then in 1998 had a hydraulic disc brake version. So needless to say, this is not a cheap bike, but everybody loved them. The technology is just starting to come out, so everybody is just jumping after the best thing they could get their hands on. And if you look at the homegrown, you could tell that it's a stacked bike. It has all kinds of great stuff on it, not just the hydraulic brakes, an XT group set, tons of travel in it, and the frame also was designed by Yeti. This is one of the reasons why even today, it's a very, very expensive bike. If you find one of them, you're going to pay good money. This is what makes the Sweet Spot such a special bike. The fact that this one had so many high-end components on it is why I wanted to make a video on this model. This specific Sweet Spot came with tons of upgrades already. It was almost as if somebody couldn't quite afford the homegrown, but read all the magazines, saw the hype, and got their hands on one of the Sweet Spots. It had an upgraded fork, much like the one on the homegrown all-mountain. So the fork is great, but the XTR shifters that came on this was something that I knew I had to have the bike, because those shifters are worth what I paid for the bike. I actually sold them shortly after for over $100 on eBay. I want to say around $120. I did get a little flack for rebuilding the bike with newer componentry, but I do think it was a good thing because the Sweet Spot didn't come with very high-end stuff to begin with. It did have a very similar frame. It did have the same swing arm on the back. But one of the things that it did not have was a nicer componentry. This one specifically, the Dior level brakes, just the LX model. So we could have done a lot better on things like that. Even though those are still good mid-level components, I wanted this bike to be able to be ridden. This is why I actually ended up upgrading the older crank to a newer, this is just a throwaway 9-speed specialized crank, nothing. These Originate chainring spacers you can find in the description. These you can use to adjust your chain line. For the smallest one, I did use a 9-speed Shimano. The aim of this project being that I wanted to specifically keep things affordable and go with what I could get at a good cost. So since I sold the XTR shifters, I elected to go with SRAM. It's not difficult to find these parts, and it's very highly recommended. If you mismatch them like I did on this, it's not that big of a deal. I did do X7 left shifter, X5 rear, and the weight actually was almost identical on most of the major parts, like the rear derailleur, similar in weight. The front derailleur was similar in weight. The bike already had XT hubs with Mavic hoops on it, so we had good savings there. The biggest result was swapping out the entire cockpit. We upgraded it for some larger diameter, lightweight FSA aluminum stem and matching handlebars. Overall, I was very pleased with how the bike turned out. It still ended up being under 30 pounds with pedals. It looked great, it performed great, it rode extremely well. You really couldn't ask for more for such a budget bike, and it was awesome to bring back a classic. I put the bike up shortly after I made my first video a couple years ago, and it sold within a couple weeks. So to this day, it's still out there pedaling on. Please like and subscribe for more content. I got a lot more content on the way. Thanks.